Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So carrying on with the videos for the Losi Micro B. We've had Furitek reach out to us, so big shout out to these guys. Sent us their new direct drop-in brushless conversion kit. If you don't have a micro receiver and a transmitter you want to use, Furitek also do a transmitter receiver bundle. And you can also get from Furitek the little adapters that will go from the normal servo plug to JST, or you might want to chop the plug off the servo, or if you're upgrading the servo as well, then get a servo that comes with a plug for your micro receiver. So depending on what receiver you're using, depends on whether you'd need any adapter for servo or not. You can always solder them directly on, which I know a few people have with the stock sort of receiver. But what I want to cover on this video is show you what you get in the box with this kit, then show you how to connect it up, how to calibrate your throttle and everything, and then how to download the app, because it does come with the Bluetooth adapter. But as I said, this is designed as a stock drop-in, so if you're just running this with the pinion that's with it, you don't have to buy any motor plate, any adjustable plate, anything like that. It's just going to drop straight in and allow you to use whichever receiver and transmitter bundle you have. Or, as I say, you can go down the route of getting everything from Furitek, and they do a nice little transmitter and receiver bundle. But let's bring you in for a close-up look and see what we get inside this tiny little box, because this thing is fascinating. It is microscopic. But let's see how we get on with this one. So, what do we get in box or in bag? We get our instructions, and I'm not even going to attempt to get this on video because, yeah, this writing is absolutely microscopic. The one takeaway I can give you from this, or the few takeaways I can give you, so they do a sensor cable to allow you to swap to the Furitek Hellfire motor. They also do a sensor cable adapter for the Hobbywing 1626 motor. And if we, yeah, this is gonna be interesting to get on video. But basically, the outputs for the motor, they are labelled, so it is A, B, and C. So should you want to swap this cable out, you can solder the motor wires directly onto A, B and C. So we do have that option. It is fully censored. It is a tiny, tiny little motor. And I find it fascinating. The Bluetooth adapter does come with it. And that is just connected to the top of the ESC. And once you've finished with this, you can then take the Bluetooth programmer out, so it gives it even smaller of a footprint. But yeah, I mean, I've not got the smallest hands, but this is tiny. It really is impressive. The machining on it is fantastic. It does come with the actual pinion, and this will fit on the stock motor plate. It is machined out at the bottom here, and I'm not sure if that's just for clearance on the Micro B. So we do have two sides and the windings are exposed. So just be mindful that you don't clip any of these windings. You're not going to just do it with your finger, but just be careful when you're actually fitting this or when you're handling it, you don't cut them windings, because they have exposed them to get the motor casing size down. It is a removable sensor cable. It does come with another sensor cable in the actual packet. You do get the two tiny little screws, so let's see if I can get these out without them escaping. So we do get a microscopic Allen key or hex wrench. Let's see if this fits the pinion. I believe it does. Yep. So we do get a hex wrench to fit the actual pinion itself. We do get two screws. Yeah, it's a tight fit on the 1.5mm hex, but these are definitely 1.5mm hex screws, and I believe these are the correct thread for the motor. Yep, so as motor screws are covered, We do get the extra cable, and I believe this one will go to the Furitek motor, the Hellfire. I think that's what this one's for. And we do have a nice size sticky pad that we can use to fasten down not only our ESC, it looks like there'd be enough to fasten down the receiver as well with that. So let's keep all these safe to one side. Now, as I say, we are going to have to provide our own receiver for this one. Furitek do a actual receiver and transmitter combo. We've got a tiny little on-off switch on the side, which is convenient, and even with my big fingers, it's quite easy to switch that on and off. You've got your standard power plug that comes on the Micro B, so no modifications needed to power it from your actual Losi Micro B battery. And we do have the Bluetooth dongle. So spec wise, we've got a 25 amp constant 50 amp boost limit on the ESC, supports live tuning from the actual app itself, and with this being censored, you should get a crazy amount of control with this. The actual telemetry updates 10 times a second. The app's available for both iOS and Android, and it does say free lifetime firmware upgrades. Battery support is 2S LiPo, so you are limited to 2S. The BEC output will go from 5.5 volt to 7.4 volt, and it's 5 amp. The actual dimensions of this, if you're wanting to measure up, and if we measure this in inch, which seems a bit overkill for something this small, but we've got 0.71 by 0.55 by 0.37 inch, and then millimeters, we've got 18.1 by 14 by 9.5 mil. The weight of this is 7.6 grams or 0.27 ounce. So I think that pretty much covers all the specs. The actual motor itself is the Furitek Storm Razor 1524, and I take it that this is the MICROBEAST ESC. It does say MICROBEAST on it. So let's get everything sorted out, and I will show you for this one. As always, I'm going to be running the FlySky NB4 Pro Plus, and on this one at the moment I'm going to be fitting it all up using the FlySky GMR, and this is the genuine micro receiver, and it's a FlySky one, not a Das Micro one, so this one is not one that will ever get blocked. Also binds in two-way, so you can get telemetry back from these, I believe. Another thing on this, it binds as an enhanced receiver, not a standard receiver, which leads me to believe it's telemetry enabled. But I do believe this one has the gyro port, so you've got 4 channels and gyro in case you really want to use that. Shouldn't really be necessary because the Micro B does handle pretty good. It does have a bind button as well, so you're not messing around using a actual bind plug to try and get it to bind. And off top of my head, I think these are labelled 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then that one's gyro or telemetry. I think. It's been a while since I played about with this receiver. But let's get this set up. I'll try and get it sort of in focus so you can see the screen on the transmitter, although there's not that much we need to do with transmitter. But yeah, let's get this set up and I'll show you how to bind it. So I'm going to do my best for you to get this sort of in shot, but it's going to be awkward. If I turn the lights off so I can see this screen better, then you can't see what I'm plugging in on here. And if I leave the lights on, then it kind of blows this screen out. These screens are extremely bright, but for recording I have to back it right down, else that blows the camera out. So yeah, it's all going to be fun. Basically, we've got our little micro receiver and his little micro ESC, and we need to get these connected first. So if we plug that in, then we need to supply power. So we've got our standard Losi battery, and if we just plug that in. So once we have this all plugged in, and connect it up. We're going to go on to a transmitter. We're going to go to RX set. We're going to come to binding. We're going to have it on enhanced. We're going to press and hold the button. We're going to turn on as ESC. Once we've got it in bind mode,
binding successful.
We're now fully bound up. The next thing we're going to want to do is calibrate our ESC. So we turn this off.
Signal lost.
We go full throttle on transmitter. You then turn it on. You get a series of beeps. So we go all the way back to 0. Then we go full throttle. We go all the way back to 0. We go full brake. Let it go back to 0. You get a series of beeps. We've now got nice throttle, brake, let off, and then reverse. And that is a very, very smooth bottom end to that motor, and it's incredibly responsive. Brake's nice, and then reverse. We've got from around maybe 46-47%. So yeah, it does calibrate and work perfectly well with the FlySky GMR. It'll be the same sort of process to set this up no matter what transmitter you're using. The one thing you would have to bear in mind, so there'd be a few ways of doing this. The way I've bound it is to go throttle first, then brake. Sorry, the way I've calibrated the ESC is to calibrate throttle first, then brake. Technically, if that gave you a reversed throttle, you could then do it brake first, then throttle, and it'd still calibrate. It'd just switch round the way your throttle and brake work. So, next I'm going to show you how to download the app and get the Bluetooth connectivity set up on this. So, let's get ready to do that. I've got a little dongle. I'll get the phone ready to record the phone screen so I can put you that up round here somewhere so you can see what we're actually doing. So, let's get that bit done. Right, so we're going to get us a little Bluetooth adapter. We're going to plug this in with our little speed controller turned off. Then the next thing we're going to want to do is get the actual app. So we're going to open the App Store on your iOS or Android. You're going to search Furitek and we should download the Fury Car app. So once we've got that downloaded, you can open the app. You'll get a warning asking you to allow, so we'll want that to allow. And then we need to power on our ESC. And we've got a blue flashing light. And the app has detected our car straight away, so we can click on that. It'll ask for password. The default is 1234, and you can change this. So, onto the app. So we got live telemetry, which is really cool. We can see what his little motor's doing. We've got our voltage, we've got our temperature, and then we've got our actual curve, and we can see with the little dot what it's doing. Then if we go in, we've got running. So on this mode, running, so we have forward, reverse with brake. As options on this, we can have forward and brake, which some racing classes will want you to have. You've got forward, reverse with brake, which is good for practicing. Mainly, I think on the smaller classes, they are allowing reverse because they don't want people stomping all over a tiny track with tiny cars. If you wanted to use this setup in a crawler, you have got forward and reverse with no brake, so it's just forward straight into reverse. For me, I'm going to leave that on forward brake with reverse. Voltage cutoff. Now this is one that you're going to have to experiment with. But for me, I don't really like running a LiPo down much past 3.3 volt. So I'm going to try that, see what sort of performance we get. If with these being such a small LiPo, we may get voltage drop, so we may have to lift that a little bit. I certainly would not want to run a LiPo down below 3 volt at all. And if you do run it down to 3 volt, you want to get it charged up pretty quickly. Next, we have voltage output for the servo. So we've got 5.5 or 7.5. If you're running the stock servo, I would leave it at 5.5. I don't think it's going to react very nice with the stock servo. The usually Spectrum gear tends to be a bit sensitive to voltage. Then we have rotation. So stock is counterclockwise, or we can change it to clockwise. Just remember, if you're using this in censored mode, do not swap the motor wires over. You will probably destroy the ESC and likely the motor too. It's only sensorless motors where you can swap the A, B and C wires. You can swap 2 RAM to get it to go backwards. Censored, you have to do this in the actual app when you're programming the ESC. Startup power, we've got low, mid, normal, high and very high. It's set to mid at the moment. Max forward is your maximum forward speed, so 100% is 100% of what the ESC can do. Max reverse 50%, probably going to be more than enough for anybody. You can alter that all the way up to 100, depends what you want. The max brake, now for me, I would tend to set this to 100. The only reason I'm saying set this to 100 is if you've got a decent style transmitter, you can use your dual rate on your brake to back the brake down. And then you're not having to connect to your ESC to change that. But it's all personal preference. Drag brake, we need to get this RC on a track first. I know a lot of guys that run the 10th scale 2-wheel drives and 4-wheel drives will tend to run a bit of drag brake. Again, it's all real personal preference. You can add a bit of drag brake to make it feel more like the brushed motor, because brushed motors drag. You're swapping to brushless. You might find it freewheeling a bit better or a lot more than what you'd expect. So you can just add the drag brake up here. I do like the way on the left hand side it gives us everything what we can do. So like max reverse from 30 to 100, max forward from 50 to 100, max brake 0 to 100, drag brake 0 to 100. So that's all really nice. Then we can go to throttle. So you can calibrate the throttle from this menu as well. And to do it, you just press calibrate and then just go full throttle forward. In fact, while we've got it on, we may as well do it. So if I click calibrate, so for calibration, we can put it into calibrate mode. It says leave it at 0. So we'll leave it at 0. Full throttle. Set maximum brake. Do you want to save? Yeah. Calibrate throttle successfully saved, so we should now be back moving. So yeah, if you forget how to get it into calibration mode, which is just hold full throttle when you power it up, but you can do it through the app. So neutral forward, so we've got narrow, normal, wide or super wide. Brake frequency, so basically when we're messing around with frequencies on things like these, the lower the frequency, the harsher the effect of what you're doing. So higher kilohertz will give a more granular feel to the brake, lower will usually give more torque and a more aggressive brake. Same on drive frequency. Higher will give more control, lower will give sort of more torque under acceleration, so more power if you like. It'll kind of feel that way. Punch is same as everything. You've got 10 settings. Stock is 2, so just try it. If you feel you need more, you can just add. Neutral brake 3%, and I think that'll go up to 5, is it? Let's have a look. Yeah, so you've got 3 to 5. Rev limiter, so we can enable a rev limit. So this is one of the settings that I found interesting on the LSRAM ESC, and it's nice to see that it's on this kind of ESC as well. So if you wanted to fit this in a drift vehicle, you can basically, your RPM is from 0 to 100. Then you can set the sort of RPM drop. Basically, what you can do with this is, if you've got this rev limit on, once it reaches your upper limit, it'll drop by the number on the drop RPM. And I know a few drift guys use this, so they can just pin throttle, it'll spin wheels up, break the back end away, but then it'll drop the RPM into a safer zone for motor. So interesting to see that on this little ESC. Then we've got throttle curve, and you can play around this till your heart's content. It basically just changes the response of how you want the throttle to come on. So you can just move these around. You can move them up or down. Depends on how you want that throttle curve. And you do have the option to flick the little toggle at the bottom, and it'll set same for reverse. You have got reset, so if you completely mess this up, so if you did go in and you completely messed it up, you can reset it straight back. So nice to see that. Then we've got as advanced settings. So we have enable boost and enable turbo. So if we go in here, you can see the degree of timing boost, the start RPM and stop RPM. So if you want mid-range boost through the RPM range of your motor, you can tell it that from whatever RPM to whatever RPM you want it to boost. It'll advance the timing. Your motor will get hotter. You will it'll use more power. It'll get less efficient, but it'll be more powerful. It's weird how boost works, but that's basically it. And then turbo. So we've got the degrees of turbo. You've got the turbo delay, so it's how many milliseconds of delay you want before turbo kicks in. So this is when the throttle is at 100%, it will delay by how many milliseconds you set here, and then it'll boost to whatever degree of timing you want for your turbo. Then you've got the sort of increments that it will increase at, and then the increments it will decrease at. So how quickly it'll jump up and jump down from the boost. So it's really got a hell of a lot of features. Such a tiny little ESC. We're talking features here that are usually on really high-end race ESCs. So yeah, likes of LSRAM, nitride and oxide, your sort of Hobbywing XR10 Pros. You've kind of got that level of control in a 1/28 scale micro little brushless setup. Really impressive. So you can see your battery voltage if we go on to battery tab. And it is live. So you've also got the correction factor, so you can plus or minus this. If you put a really reliable voltmeter on and you see your battery level is not what it should be, we've got the option of going in and correcting it. I've noticed that on quite a few ESCs nowadays. So yeah, quite a lot of options. If we go into the gear, we've got change password. We've got as motor configuration, so you can tell it which motor you've got on here. This one's set for the 9500 kV, which is correct. We've got the temperature in degrees C or Fahrenheit. temperature protect mode. Now, I would be tempted to put this on at least 100. So, change Bluetooth name if you want to change the name of your RC on the Bluetooth dongle. Reset Bluetooth name, reset to factory. Change password if you want to change it from 1234 to anything else. Then we have firmware update. So if we go into this, we get a readout of its name, or Bluetooth name is RCAR. The MICROBEAST current firmware is 1.2, hardware version is version 1, available firmware 1.2. So we can go all the way back to 1.1 or 1.2. It does give you a really nice sort of description of what's in the last 3 updates. So the first version was 1, first release. Version 1.1, they improved throttle. Version 1.2, fixed a bug. So accelerator after the brake, so they fixed a bug on that. There's no firmware update required on this at minute because 1.2 is the latest. So we can back out from that. But yeah, it's a really solid, very impressive ESC and motor combo, this. If you click on the little car icon, you get a readout of what your device is, and then we can click disconnect. So that's all from the actual app itself. But yeah, overall, I'm incredibly impressed with this. The Bluetooth connects really quickly. The app is very intuitive to use. We've got it set up as an enhanced receiver on this, so I think we're running around 400 Hz on this. Let's have a look on servo frequency. So we've got it set to digital. So 380 Hz, it's coping with that absolutely fine. So you're not going to have any problem with high-end transmitters or anything. And from FlySky's part, the GMR receiver, I think it's quite a good match for this ESC. Very similar footprint, and I don't think you'd have an issue getting them both on the same sort of part on the little Micro B. So yeah, quite a few things I like about this. I like that it comes with the stock battery connector. So that's a really nice touch. No messing around with that. These batteries do fit perfect in Micro B, so it makes sense. I like the fact it comes with the micro plugs, because you're probably going to be running a micro receiver. As you see, once we've got this micro receiver, the standard size plug servos won't fit, so you'd have to get a micro adapter to get this to fit, or buy a servo with the micro plug on, or swap the plug to one of these micros. Really like the way Bluetooth dongle is very easily disconnected. And then same for the motor. I wouldn't pull this out with the wires. I'd get hold of that and pull the sensor wire out very carefully. And also we can disconnect the motor. So that's real nice. Very easy to disconnect, but I don't think you'd have a problem with that disconnecting as standard. As you're driving around, it's not going to pull loose. Love the fact that we've now got a proper on-off switch. It does make programming or binding on your receivers so much easier when your ESC has an actual power switch. Kind of gets really fiddly trying to plug a battery in and hold the bind button down at the same time. Not a great experience when it goes that way. The pinion that we've got is designed so it fits on the stock motor plate on the Micro B, so that shouldn't be an issue at all. You don't need to change the motor plate to run the stock pinion. As I say, Furitek do a adjustable motor plate, they do a bigger pinion set, they do the adapters that go from these tiny little plugs to a standard servo plug, so they've got you covered on that. If you don't want to go down the route of using a FlySky transmitter or anything, you don't have to use the FlySky GMR. Furitek do a little receiver and transmitter bundle that you can buy, so you can get all the lot together and stick with Furitek through the entire range. But yeah, big shout out to the guys for sending us this over. Looking forward to getting it put in this little Micro B. As I say, I want to do this video in 2 parts because this has already been far too long. There's a lot to cover on this. It's got a lot of settings and I didn't want to leave anything out. But yeah, as you can see, it's not really going to be an issue getting this in. We've got quite a lot of room on here. So I don't think we're going to have an issue if we mount this up forward. And then you've got a little bit of space to get your micro receiver, or you can mount your micro receiver back here. So plenty of options, plenty of places to fit stuff, and yeah, it's going to go in easy. But really nice to see we've got a direct drop-in. Now, I know some people are going to comment and say it's not direct drop-in because you can't change the receiver. You can't use the stock receiver, but there literally is nothing that Furitek or anybody else can do about this. It's a receiver ESC in one. There's no other options available. The only way you're going to be able to use any ESC or motor that's not Spectrum is to go with a separate receiver. And to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the transmitter that comes with this little thing anyway. I've never been a fan of the RTR things, which is why I use the FlySky MB4, MB4 Plus, the Pros, the Pro Plus. Even the FlySky G7P has micro receivers that would work with this. So there's lots of other options, and as I say, Furitek do a cracking range of little receiver and ESC and transmitter. They do all the little adapter cables and everything. So yeah, if you want to stick with Furitek for the lot, you can do. I will put links to all this below in the description, as always. But yeah, hopefully that gives you just an idea of how small this is. The actual ESC can fit pretty much on the back of that. It's thinner than what the original ESC and receiver is. And there's plenty of options for tiny little receivers out there. But yeah, let's wrap this one up. So there you have it, the Furitek drop-in brushless system for the Losi Micro B. Not entirely sure if Furitek were expecting this kind of video, but if you've seen any of my videos, yeah, I don't do brief unboxings. I like to cover everything so you guys know exactly what to expect when you buy this. From what I understand, it'll be up for sale or available to order really early January. And yeah, hopefully it's not going to take me too long to get it all set up in the Micro B and get some running vid for you. I don't think the local track's going to be ready till maybe February time when the next shipment of these things come into UK. But I will be getting another one because why not? They're small, they don't cost much, and I'm hopefully going to have one that's really modded and one that's completely stock. So when we get round to getting the track all sorted, should be able to show you some differences of lap times between a stock one and a fully modified one, which will be fun. But yeah, thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, or just like listening to my incessant ramblings as I send you off to sleep. But catch you guys again in the next one.